Skull bones at birth are made up of one table. Later on, by 4 years or so, one more table develops, and in between the two tables is the cancellous bone containing red bone marrow, which produces RBCs, granular series of WBCs, and platelets throughout life. The figure shows 4 diploid veins emerging from within the skull, draining into neighboring veins. These are frontal, anterior temporal, posterior temporal, and the occipital. These 4 veins are present on each side of the skull. There are some emissary veins connecting intracranial veins with the extracranial veins. The blood flow can decrease the raised intracranial pressure to a limited extent only. But the disadvantage is of the infection being carried into the cranial cavity from outside via these emissary veins. These veins which are shown are the vein passing through parietal foramen, vein passing through the mastoid foramen, vein passing through the posterior condylar canal, and vein passing through the foramen ovale. The skull comprises of skull cap and the base of skull. The bones of the cap are flat and they have intramembranous ossification, whereas bones of the base of skull are irregular and have got intracartilaginous ossification. Skull comprises 22 bones. 8 belong to the cranial cavity and 14 to the face. Between these 22 bones, there is only one pair of synovial or moving joint. The rest are immobile. These immobile joints are the sutures and primary cartilaginous. There are about 50 foramina in the skull for communication with the outside. Bones of the skull are forming the cranial cavity, parietal, temporal. These are paired. The unpaired bones of the cranial cavity are frontal, occipital, ethmoid, sphenoid, bones of the face. The paired bones are maxilla, lacrimal, nasal, zygomatic, palatine, and inferior nasal concha. The unpaired bones of the facial skeleton are the mandible, and the vomer. The anatomical position of skull. The lower margin of the orbit, and upper margin of external auditory meatus. A plane passing through lower margin of orbit and the upper margin of external auditory meatus is the Frankfurt spleen. And this is the anatomical position of skull. The sutures in the skull. The coronal suture is present between the frontal and two parietal bones. The sagittal suture situated between the two parietal bones. The lambdoid present between the occipital and parietal on each side. Then there is a small occipitomastoid suture and a small parieto-mastoid suture. Fracture of the skull bones or vertebra is serious because of injury to the underlying brain or spinal cord respectively. It is one's duty to wear the helmet to protect the precious non-regenerating nervous tissue. A brief description of the individual bones. The paired parietal bones. These are flat bones with 4 borders and 4 angles. Anteriorly, it articulates with the frontal bone. Medially, it articulates with the opposite parietal bone. Posteriorly, it articulates with the occipital bone at the lambdoid suture. And inferiorly, it articulates with the squamous temporal bone. At the anteroinferior angle of the parietal bone, there is a impression for the middle meningeal artery. A pair of parietal foramina are present on each side of the sagittal suture for the transmission of the emissary vein. Temporal bone. A pair of temporal bone forms the side of the temple. It consists of parts. Squamous part is the flat part. Mastoid part is a projection which is called the mastoid process. Tympanic part is anterior to the mastoid process, forming the boundary of external auditory meatus. Styloid process posteromedial to the mastoid process, and an important petrous part. This petrous part is a very strong bone and it lodges the middle ear and the internal ear. Frontal bone forms the forehead. It has an orbital surface. And has a notch for the cribriform plate of ethmoid bone. Yes. Occipital bone has a squamous part with a prominent external occipital protuberance and nuchal lines. And the occipital bone happens to contain the largest foramen of the skull, which is the foramen magnum. It also has a condylar part and forms the atlanto-occipital joint. Ethmoid. Ethmoid is a small, thin bone with 3 pairs of ethmoidal air sinuses. It also has superior nasal concha and a middle nasal concha. also forms the part of the wall of the nasal septum. Sphenoid. Sphenoid is a butterfly-like bone. It has a body with a shallow fossa which is known as the hypophyseal fossa. Also on each side has a lesser wing and a greater wing. The greater wing has number of foramina. The palatine bone. Two palatine bones. Each palatine bone has a horizontal process which forms the posterior part of the hard palate, and a vertical plate vomer is a single bone which forms the septum of the nose. Inferior nasal concha is also a separate bone. The nasal bone. Are one on each side with an internasal suture. The nasal bone is one of the commonest bones of the face to get fractured. Lacrimal is a delicate bone in the medial wall of the orbit. It usually gets broken, and the lacrimal bone lodges the lacrimal sac. The maxilla. Maxilla bone forms the bone of the face. It contains the biggest air sinus, which is known as the maxillary air sinus. The maxillary sinusitis is the commonest, as its opening is not at the bottom but towards the upper wall. It has got processes. One is the frontal process, the alveolar process, which lodges 8 teeth, zygomatic process, which forms part of the zygomatic arch, and the palatine process, which forms the anterior 2/3 of the hard palate. It has got surfaces, anterior surface, which gives attachment to muscles of facial expression, medial surface, which shows the air sinus, posterior surface, and an orbital surface, which forms the floor of the orbit. This maxilla bone is related to branches of the maxillary nerve. Zygomatic. Zygomatic bone forms the prominence of the cheek. It has a frontal process, temporal process, maxillary process, and it shows a small zygomatic foramen. Vomer forms part of the nasal cavity and is a single bone. Mandible is again a single bone, and it is the largest bone of the face. It has a horseshoe shaped base or body and 2 rami. The rami have 2 processes each. The anterior one narrow is the coronoid process, and posterior one is the condylar process. The condylar process forms the important temporomandibular joint, at which movements of depression, elevation, and side-to-side movement, and protraction and retraction occurs. The various normas. The norma verticalis. Norma verticalis, one sees the coronal suture, between the two parietal bones and the frontal bone, the sagittal suture between the two parietal bones, the lambdoid suture between the two parietals and the occipital bone. Vertex is the highest point on the sagittal suture. Bregma is the junction of coronal and sagittal sutures. Here lies the anterior fontanelle at birth. Norma occipitalis. The skull as seen from the back is known as norma occipitalis. It shows the lambdoid suture, occipitomastoid suture and parieto-mastoid suture. The external occipital protuberance at the junction of head and neck is seen. It is also known as the inion. Extending laterally on each side are superior nuchal lines which give attachment to sternocleidomastoid laterally, which is known as the chin turning muscle, and trapezius medially, which is known as the shrugging muscle. The view of the skull seen from the front is known as norma frontalis. It shows the frontal bone, the two nasal bones, internasal suture, frontonasal suture. Orbits are present below the frontal bone on each side of the nasal cavity. Nasion is a point at the root of nose at the junction of internasal and frontonasal sutures. Supraorbital margin is above the orbit. It reveals supraorbital foramen or notch at the junction of medial 1/3 and lateral 2/3. Infraorbital margin formed by maxilla and zygomatic bones. Lateral orbital margin by processes of frontal and zygomatic bone. Medial margin by parts of frontal and maxilla bones. The external nose contains only 2 nasal bones. Rest are all cartilages. Maxilla contributes greatly to face. It shows infraorbital foramen, incisive fossa and canine fossa. Maxilla has 4 processes. These have been mentioned. The zygomatic bone lies below and lateral to the orbit, forming the prominence of the cheek. Mandible forms the lower jaw. Head of mandible forms important mobile temporomandibular joint with the temporal bone. There is chin in the center. Union of 2 halves of mandible, and mental foramen lies lateral to chin. Norma lateralis. This is the lateral view of the skull. It shows 2 temporal lines, superior and inferior. The superior line starts from the frontal bone, ascends on the parietal bone and fades away posteriorly. The inferior temporal line again starts from the frontal bone, runs across the parietal, turns downwards above mastoid process as supramastoid crest and continues as the posterior root of zygoma. The zygomatic arch is formed by zygomatic bone and squamous temporal bone. Posterior part of zygomatic arch is called zygoma. Zygoma is attached to squamous temporal by 2 roots, Anterior root passes anterior to the mandibular or articular fossa. The posterior root runs along lateral margin of mandibular fossa and above the external auditory meatus to get continuous with the supramastoid crest. Sometimes a small post-glenoid tubercle may be visible on the posterior margin of the mandibular fossa. The external auditory meatus. External auditory meatus is formed chiefly by the tympanic plate of temporal bone. Only a small part is formed by the squamous temporal bone. The suprameatal triangle is posterior-superior to the external auditory meatus. Its boundaries are supramastoid crest, posterior-superior margin of external auditory meatus, and a tangent to the posterior margin of the meatus. This triangle forms lateral wall of the mastoid antrum, the big ear cell in relation to posterior wall of middle ear. In case of severe infection and pus formation, the antrum is opened through the suprameatal triangle. The mastoid process. Mastoid process is a nipple-like projection behind external auditory meatus. It is not seen at birth but appears at about 2 years. The styloid process. Styloid process is a needle-like process 2 to 2.5 centimeter long, anteromedial to the mastoid process. Few muscles and ligaments are attached to the process. Temporal fossa lies on the lateral side of skull. Its upper limit is the superior temporal line. It communicates by a gap deep to the zygomatic bone with the infratemporal fossa. The temporalis muscle fills most of the temporal fossa. Infratemporal fossa. It lies between lateral pterygoid plate of the sphenoid and ramus of the mandible. The other 3 muscles of mastication and related structures lie here. Anterior to infratemporal fossa is the pterygopalatine fossa. Where the pterygopalatine ganglia and related structures are present. Norma basalis. The view of the skull from inferior or basal aspect is called norma basalis. It is divided into 3 regions: anterior part, middle part, and posterior part. The anterior part of norma basalis. There is an alveolar arch containing sockets for 16 upper teeth. Anterior 2/3 of hard palate is formed by palatine process of maxilla. Posterior 1/3 is formed by horizontal process of palatine bone. A cruciform suture is seen between these adjacent bones. The foramina seen are incisive foramen in the midline anteriorly with the right and left incisive canals, greater palatine foramen on the posterolateral corner, 2 to 3 lesser palatine foramina behind greater palatine foramen. posterior nasal spine is seen in midline posteriorly. On each side, a little anterior to posterior nasal spine is a palatine crest. The middle part of Norma basalis. It comprises area from posterior border of hard palate to anterior margin of foramen magnum. Structures seen are posterior border of vomer, which separates the two posterior nasal openings. Behind is a broad bone formed by fusion of basi-sphenoid and basi-occipital. This is a primary cartilaginous joint and allows growth of bones. This part of the bone is marked by a pharyngeal tubercle in the median plane. The lateral area. Parts seen are pterygoid process and greater wing, both of the sphenoid bone, tympanic, squamous, and petrous parts of temporal bone. The pterygoid process is a single process at its attachment to the junction of body and greater wing of sphenoid. Inferiorly and posteriorly, it splits into a lateral pterygoid plate and a medial pterygoid plates. The two plates remain fused anteriorly and are separated from the maxilla by pterygomaxillary fissure. Medial pterygoid plate at upper end shows a scaphoid fossa. Lower end shows a pterygoid humerus. Lateral pterygoid plate gives origin to the pterygoid muscles from its medial and lateral surfaces. Greater wing of sphenoid lies lateral to pterygoid process. It articulates laterally with squamous temporal and medially with petrous temporal. At its posterior most point between these articulations is a sharp, small projection called spine of sphenoid. Spine of sphenoid is related to auriculotemporal nerve laterally and to cauda tympani nerve medially. In injury to the spine, both these nerves may get affected, leading to loss of salivation and partial loss of taste. The greater wing of sphenoid. The greater wing of sphenoid is pierced by foramen ovale. Main structure passing through this is the mandibular nerve. Posterior to that is the foramen spinosum, which gives passage to middle meningeal artery. Sulcus tubi is a groove between greater wing of sphenoid and petrous temporal bone. It lodges the cartilaginous part of auditory tube. The petrous temporal bone. Petrous temporal is a triangular bone. Its apex is medially placed. At its apex is the upper end of the carotid canal. The lower end of carotid canal lies on the inferior surface of petrous temporal. Thus, carotid canal runs medially and forwards within the rock-like petrous temporal bone. Foramen lacerum, about 1 centimeter long. Its lower end is bounded by petrous temporal and basi-occipit and basi-sphenoid bone. Upper end of the carotid canal opens into the upper and posterior part of foramen lacerum. Tegmen tympani. Tegmen tympani is present inside the skull. It lies lateral to the arcuate eminence. Its edge is seen in the squamotympanic fissure. It divides the squamotympanic fissure into a posterior petrotympanic and an anterior petrosquamous fissure. Cauda tympani nerve leaves the skull through petrotympanic fissure. The tympanic plate. It lies between squamous and petrous parts of the temporal bone. Its anterior surface forms part of mandibular fossa, which forms the mobile joint, the temporomandibular joint. The posterior surface of tympanic plate forms most of the wall of bony external auditory meatus. The squamous part of temporal bone forms most of the mandibular fossa. It also forms articular tubercle present at the junction of anterior and posterior roots of zygoma. Now the posterior part of Norma basalis. The median area shows the largest foramen of the skull, the foramen magnum. The external occipital crest from the posterior margin of foramen magnum, and the external occipital protuberance in the midline, also called the inion. The lateral area shows condylar part of occipital bone, which contains oval-shaped occipital condyles for articulation with the upper articular facet of atlas to form atlanto-occipital joints. Close to it is anterior condylar canal or hypoglossal canal, giving exit to the 12th cranial nerve. Squamous part of occipital bone is marked by superior nuchal line and inferior nuchal line on each side of external occipital protuberance. The jugular foramen. The jugular foramen is large and elongated foramen at the posterior end of petro-occipital suture. It gives exit to 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerves and beginning of internal jugular vein. In relation to jugular foramen are mastoid canaliculus, which lies in the lateral wall of the jugular foramen, and tympanic canaliculus, which lies at a junction of jugular foramen and the carotid canal. Most important is the stylomastoid foramen, which lies between the styloid process and the mastoid process. The stylomastoid foramen gives exit to the 7th or the facial nerve. Mastoid process is a large conical projection. It forms the lateral wall of the mastoid notch. The interior of skull. The interior of skull or inner table of skull is lined by its periosteum known as endocranium. The endocranium gets continuous with the periosteum through the various sutures and foramina. Thickness of cranial vault is variable. Parts covered by muscles, the temporal fossa, are thinner than those which are not covered by muscles. Inner surface of the skull cap. The inner table is thin and is easily injured. Markings of meningeal vessels are easily seen. Markings of cranial venous sinuses, arachnoid granulations, cerebral gyri are visible. Other structures seen are frontal crest anteriorly, superior sagittal sulcus lodging superior sagittal venous sinus, arachnoid granulations on each side of sagittal sulcus. Markings of meningeal vessels, especially anterior branch of middle meningeal artery. Internal surface of base of skull or cranial fossae. The cranial fossae are divided into three fossae: anterior, middle and posterior. These are described briefly. Anterior cranial fossa, the boundaries. Anteriorly and on the side is the frontal bone. Posteriorly is the posterior border of lesser wing of sphenoid and anterior glenoid process. Floor is the cribriform plate of ethmoid and part of sphenoid which is called as jugum sphenoidale. Orbital plates of frontal bone are on the sides. Features: cribriform plate of ethmoid lies between nasal cavity and anterior cranial fossa. Anterior margin shows a foramen cecum. It is mostly blind. At the posterolateral corners are posterior ethmoidal canals containing only posterior ethmoidal vessels. At the lateral margin is anterior ethmoidal canal placed behind crista galli. It contains both the nerve and vessels of the same name. Cribriform plate anteriorly contains a midline projection called the crista galli. The cribriform plate is perforated by 10 to 12 pair of olfactory nerve rootlets. Orbital plate of frontal bone separates the fossa from the orbit. Orbital surface of frontal lobe of brain lies on this plate. Medial margin of orbital plate covers the ethmoidal air cells. Lesser wing of sphenoid is broad medially and narrow laterally. Free posterior border ends medially as anterior glenoid process. It also forms upper boundary of superior orbital fissure. Medially, it gets divided into two roots which enclose the important optic canal. As the name implies, it lies in the center of the skull. It is narrow in the center and wide and deep on the sides. Boundaries: anteriorly posterior border of lesser wing of sphenoid and anterior glenoid process. Posteriorly, superior border of petrous temporal bone and dorsum sellae of sphenoid. Laterally, chiefly the greater wing of sphenoid. Floor, body of sphenoid in the median region, greater wing of sphenoid, squamous temporal, and anterior surface of petrous temporal on the sides. Features: optic groove or sulcus chiasmaticus leads to optic canal on each side. Optic chiasma does not lie in the sulcus, it lies above and behind the sulcus. Optic canal leads to the orbit. Sella turcica consists of the important hypophyseal fossa in the middle, which contains the hypophysis cerebri. Beneath the hypophyseal fossa is the sphenoidal air sinus. दिखा दो air sinus. Good. The posterolateral angles of sella turcica are called posterior clinoid processes. The lateral area. It is deep and houses the temporal lobe of the brain. It contains the superior orbital fissure with wide medial end and narrow lateral end. Greater wing of sphenoid forming the lateral part of middle cranial fossa shows important foramen rotundum, which carries the maxillary division of trigeminal nerve, foramen ovale behind it, which carries the mandibular division of trigeminal, and still posterior foramen spinosum, which contains the middle meningeal artery. The emissary sphenoidal foramen may or may not be present. The foramen lacerum lies at the posterior end of the carotid canal. Foramen lacerum lies at the upper. carotid canal se. The foramen lacerum lies at the upper posterior end of the carotid canal. Anterior surface of petrous temporal shows near the apex trigeminal impression, which is the ganglia for the fifth nerve in the dural cave, hiatus and groove for the greater petrosal nerve, which is a branch of facial nerve and that leads to foramen lacerum. Below it is the hiatus and groove for lesser petrosal nerve, which is a branch of ninth. It leads to foramen ovale. Laterally is arcuate eminence produced by the superior semicircular canal, and tegmen tympani is anterolateral to the arcuate eminence. It forms roof of middle ear, including the canal for tensor tympani and mastoid antrum, which forms the posterior wall of the middle ear. The posterior cranial fossa. The posterior cranial fossa is largest and deepest fossa. This fossa contains hindbrain comprising pons, medulla oblongata in front and cerebellum behind. Boundaries. Anteriorly, superior border of petrous temporal and posterior part of body of sphenoid called dorsum cellae. Posteriorly, squamous part of occipital bone, and on the sides, mastoid part of temporal bone. Floor. In the median area, sloping area behind dorsum cellae, foramen magnum in between, and squamous part of occipital bone behind. Lateral area, lateral part of occipital bone, posterior surface of petrous temporal bone, and mastoid temporal bone. Features. Clivus is sloping area in front of foramen magnum. It supports pons and medulla oblongata. Foramen magnum. It is the largest foramen of skull. It is narrow in front and wider behind. Behind foramen magnum is internal occipital crest. On each side of the crest lie the cerebellar hemispheres. Internal occipital protuberance is grooved on each side by beginning of transverse sulci containing transverse venous sinuses. These sulci continue as sigmoid sulci lodging the sigmoid venous sinuses. Lateral area. Hypoglossal canal present laterally with the hypoglossal nerve. Condylar canal containing an emissary vein. Posterior surface of petrous temporal shows a very important internal acoustic meatus. This is 1 centimeter long and runs laterally. And it gives passage to 7th nerve, 8th nerve and the labyrinthine vessels. Orifice of aqueduct of vestibule is a narrow slit behind internal acoustic meatus. The jugular foramen lies close to posterior end of junction of petrous and occipital bone. It gives exit to 9th, 10th and 11th nerves and to beginning of the internal jugular vein, which is the continuation of the sigmoid venous sinus. Finish. Okay. Orbits are pyramidal shaped cavities, one on each side of the nose. Orbit contains eyeball, muscles, nerves, vessels, ligaments, fat. Parts of orbit. Apex. This is situated at the medial end of superior orbital fissure, lies at posterior end of the orbit. Medial walls of two orbits are parallel. Lateral walls meet each other at 90-degree angle. Roof. Orbital plate of frontal bone forms the roof of the orbit. It shows lacrimal fossa anterolaterally for the lacrimal gland, optic canal at the junction of roof and medial wall, trochlear fossa anteromedially. It gives attachment to trochlea for tendon of superior oblique, lateral wall. The formed mainly by the zygomatic bone. Its frontal process forms the strong lateral wall and part of greater wing of sphenoid forms the lateral wall posteriorly. Superior orbital fissure lies at the junction of roof and lateral wall. Zygomatic foramen is in the zygomatic bone. Floor. Orbital surface of maxilla and orbital surface of zygomatic bone. It separates the orbit from maxillary air sinus. Inferior orbital fissure lies at the junction of floor and lateral wall. There is inferior orbital groove and inferior orbital canal. They run in the floor. Floor in its anteromedial part gives origin to the inferior oblique muscle. The thin medial wall is formed mainly by the frontal process of maxilla, delicate lacrimal bone, and another delicate orbital plate of ethmoid. Orbital plate of ethmoid separates the orbit from the ethmoidal air sinus. The lacrimal groove lodges lacrimal sac. The groove leads through the nasolacrimal canal into the inferior meatus of the nose. Anterior and posterior ethmoidal canal lie at junction of roof and medial wall. The inferior orbital fissure contains the zygomatic nerve, orbital branches of pterygopalatine ganglia, inferior orbital nerve, and communication between inferior ophthalmic vein and the pterygoid venous plexus. The other foramina will be done with the total number of foramina. The mandible. Mandible is the largest bone of the face. It forms synovial joint in the skull and it is the only mobile bone. It develops from the first pharyngeal arch. Mandible comprises a body which lodges 16 lower teeth and a pair of rami which is mainly for muscle attachment. Each half of body has surfaces, outer and inner. The outer surface reveals symphysis menti, mental protuberance, below that mental foramen which gives exit to mental nerve and vessels, incisive fossa and oblique line which gives attachment to the muscles. The inner surface shows mylohyoid line from third molar tooth downwards. In the lower part, there are, in relation to the symphysis menti, there are genial tubercles, superior and inferior. Above the mylohyoid line has a fossa, the submandibular fossa, which lodges the submandibular salivary gland. The submandibular fossa lies below the mylohyoid line. It lodges the submandibular salivary gland and the submandibular group of lymph nodes. These lymph nodes drain the side of the tongue. Above the mylohyoid line is the sublingual fossa lodging the sublingual salivary gland. The borders. There are two borders, upper border and the lower border. Upper border is the alveolar border for the teeth, and these joints are known as gomphosis. The lower border is also called the base. Near the midline on each side is a fossa, the digastric fossa, which gives origin to the anterior belly of digastric muscle. On the inner surface, there is a mylohyoid groove which lies below the mylohyoid line. The ramus of the mandible. It has got surfaces which are lateral and medial. The lateral surface is flat and it shows few ridges. The medial surface has a mandibular foramen which leads into a mandibular canal and it opens outside at the mental foramen and it keeps on giving incisive branches to the teeth. The anteromedial boundary of mandibular foramen is formed by a tongue-like process which is known as the lingula. The mylohyoid groove runs downwards and medially. The borders. It has got four borders. The upper border forms the concave mandibular notch. The lower border continues with the posterior border at the angle of the mandible. The anterior border is thin and the posterior border is thick. The coronoid process is a triangular projection from antero-superior part of the ramus of mandible. The condyloid process is expanded and forms the head. The head is covered with a fibrocartilage and it forms the very important synovial temporomandibular joint. Below the head is the neck, which is narrow, and anterior surface of neck has a depression which is known as pterygoid fovea. The attachments. The oblique line of the mandible gives attachment to the buccinator muscle. It extends down till the first molar tooth. The lower part of the oblique line gives attachment to depressor anguli oris and depressor labii inferioris. The incisive fossa provides attachment to the mentalis and mental slips of orbicularis oris muscle. The mylohyoid line on the inner aspect gives attachment to mylohyoid muscle in most of its part. At the posterior end, it gives attachment to the superior constrictor muscle, and just behind superior constrictor is a raphe called as pterygomandibular raphe. At the back of symphysis menti, the upper genial tubercle gives attachment to the genioglossus, which is a very important muscle, life-saving muscle of the tongue, and the lower genial tubercle gives attachment to geniohyoid. The digastric fossa gives attachment to the anterior belly of the digastric muscle. The deep cervical fascia is attached along the whole length of the lower border. Most of the lateral surface of the ramus gives insertion to the strong masseter muscle. The posterior-superior part of the lateral surface is related to the parotid gland, which overlaps the masseter muscle. On the inner surface, the lingula in relation to mandibular canal gives attachment to the sphenomandibular ligament. The medial surface of the ramus near the angle gives insertion to medial pterygoid muscle. The apex and medial surface of coronoid process and anterior border of the ramus gives insertion to important temporalis muscle. The lateral pterygoid gets inserted into pterygoid fovea on the anterior aspect of the neck. It is also inserted into the articular disc of the temporomandibular joint and the capsule of the important temporomandibular joint. Lastly, the lateral surface of the neck gives attachment to an important lateral ligament of the temporomandibular joint. The mandible is related to lots of nerves and vessels. The nerves related are all the branches of the mandibular division of trigeminal nerve. These are the auriculotemporal nerve at the neck of the mandible. The lingual nerve is related to the third molar tooth, and in extraction of third molar tooth one has to be careful not to injure this important lingual nerve. Next is the inferior alveolar nerve, which passes through the mandibular canal and exits out through the mental foramen on the outside. Before the inferior alveolar nerve enters the mandibular canal, it gives a branch which is known as the mylohyoid nerve, which runs in the mylohyoid groove to supply the mylohyoid muscle and the anterior belly of digastric. At the concave notch above, between the coronoid process and the condyloid process, is the masseteric nerve, which supplies the masseter muscle. These are the nerves. Now, lots of vessels are related to the mandible. These are facial artery. Facial artery is a branch of external carotid artery. It is seen on the inner surface of the mandible, where it makes a loop, and then it is seen at the antero-inferior angle of masseter, where it runs on the in between the facial muscles, and at the lower border of mandible, an antero-inferior angle of masseter muscle. It is palpable and it is known as the anesthetist's artery. Next is the external carotid artery, which enters the parotid gland and divides into a superficial temporal artery, which accompanies the auriculotemporal nerve, and a maxillary artery, which enters the infratemporal fossa. The mylohyoid vessels run in the mylohyoid groove. The mental vessels are seen from the mental foramen. The inferior alveolar vessels enter the mandibular canal, branches of maxillary artery. The masseteric artery runs in the concave notch. This is also a branch of the maxillary artery. The salivary glands are also related to the mandible on the posterior-superior part of lateral surface of the ramus, and also on the deeper aspect of the mandible is the largest salivary gland, the parotid gland. Also enclosing are some of the lymph nodes. The submandibular gland lies below the mylohyoid line, also enclosing the submandibular group of lymph nodes, draining the lateral aspect of the tongue. Above the mylohyoid line lie the sublingual salivary gland. The lymph nodes present have been said. They are preauricular in relation to parotid gland, submandibular in relation to submandibular gland. The fascia. Fascia, the deep cervical fascia, is related to and attached to the lower border of the mandible. Pterygomandibular raphe is attached behind the third molar tooth, and actually it gives origin to the superior constrictor muscle and buccinator muscle. The sphenomandibular raphe attached to the lingula of the mandibular foramen, and it is a remnant of first arch. The stylomandibular ligament is attached to the angle of the mandible. It is not related to any arch, but it is a thickening of the deep cervical fascia. Joints in relation to mandible. There are 16 joints with the teeth. These are gomphoses. Fibrous joints. The two temporomandibular joints formed by the head of the mandible, and symphysis manti in the center. The muscles of first arch are related to the mandible. these are 4 muscles of mastication: the lateral pterygoid, the medial pterygoid, the temporalis, and the masseter, and anterior belly of digastric and mylohyoid. Out of 8 muscles, 6 muscles are inserted into the mandible bone. And there are other muscles of the second arch, muscles of facial expression, and the buccinator muscle. The bones of the skull show numerous foramina for the entry and exit of various structures. These are very important from examination point of view as well as clinical point of view. The foramina in the anterior cranial fossae are the groove for the superior sagittal sinus, it begins in the anterior cranial fossa and runs up in the skull cap, the foramen cecum, present between the frontal crest and the crista galli. It is usually blind, but it may have an emissary vein from the upper part of the nose to the superior sagittal sinus. The anterior ethmoidal foramen. The anterior ethmoidal foramen gives passage to anterior ethmoidal nerve and vessels, whereas the posterior ethmoidal foramen only gives exit to the posterior ethmoidal vessels. The foramina of cribriform plate of ethmoid give entry to 10 to 12 olfactory nerve rootlets. This is the first cranial nerve. Behind it is the optic canal, which gives passage to the optic nerve, which is the second cranial nerve, and the ophthalmic artery, which is a branch of the internal carotid artery. The middle cranial fossa in the middle shows a hypophyseal fossa for lodging the hypophysis cerebri. On the side it shows superior orbital fissure. Below the medial end of superior orbital fissure is the foramen rotundum, through which the second division of trigeminal or maxillary nerve passes out. Behind that is the foramen ovale, through which the important mandibular division of trigeminal nerve passes. Also passing is the accessory meningeal artery, lesser petrosal nerve, and an emissary vein. So the mnemonic is MALE, M-A-L-E. Behind foramen ovale is foramen spinosum, through which the middle meningeal artery enters the cranial cavity, and there is also a meningeal branch of mandibular nerve. Behind that there may be an emissary sphenoidal foramen connecting the cavernous sinus with the pterygoid plexus of vein. Medial to that is the foramen lacerum. This aspect of foramen lacerum, the internal carotid artery and nerve plexus pass across its superior end. This foramen will be seen again in the inferior aspect, and occasionally a meningeal branch of ascending pharyngeal artery and emissary vein from cavernous sinus passes through it. The figure shows obliquely directed superior orbital fissure and its contents. It is divided into three parts: lateral, middle and medial. Through the lateral part passes lacrimal and frontal. These are branches of ophthalmic division of trigeminal and the trochlear, the fourth cranial nerve, the superior ophthalmic vein, and the recurrent meningeal branch of lacrimal artery, which in turn is a branch of the ophthalmic artery. The middle part gives passage to upper and lower divisions of the oculomotor nerve, the nasociliary nerve, which is a branch of ophthalmic division of trigeminal, and lastly the sixth cranial nerve, the abducent nerve. Through the medial part passes only the inferior ophthalmic vein. Also seen in this figure is the optic canal containing the optic nerve and the ophthalmic artery. The figure shows the hypophyseal fossa enclosing or housing the important hypophysis cerebri, and this hypophysis cerebri is covered by a fold of dura mater which is known as the diaphragma sellae. This diaphragma sellae prevents the weight of the brain from crushing the poor pituitary gland. This figure shows the trigeminal ganglia lying on the medial part of anterior face of petrous temporal bone. Seems to divide into three branches: the ophthalmic, which leaves it through the superior orbital fissure; the maxillary, which leaves through foramen rotundum; the mandibular, which leaves through foramen ovale. The deep motor branch, motor root, is seen on the deeper aspect, and still posterolateral to it is the foramen spinosum, which gives entry to the important middle meningeal artery. On the anterior surface is the fissure for the greater petrosal nerve. This figure shows the important foramen lacerum. This foramen lacerum is filled by fibrocartilage, and it only transmits through and through one emissary vein and a meningeal artery. At the posterior-superior end of the foramen lacerum is the upper opening of the parotid canal. Through its anterior wall, there is a canal which is known as pterygoid canal, which gives passage to nerve of the pterygoid canal, which opens into the pterygopalatine fossa. The internal carotid artery is passing through the petrous temporal bone, that is the lower opening, and the upper opening is in relation to the foramen lacerum. The posterior cranial fossa. On the posterior surface of the petrous temporal bone is an oblique canal, the internal acoustic meatus, which gives passage to 7th nerve, 8th nerve and the labyrinthine vessels. Below and little medial to it is a big foramen which is known as the jugular foramen, through which the 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerves pass, and also the sigmoid sinus continues as the internal jugular vein. This lies in the posterior part of the jugular foramen. The largest foramen of the skull is also present in the posterior cranial fossa. It gives exit to various structures, which we'll do just now. And anterior to that is the anterior condylar canal, which is seen both from the inner aspect and from the outer aspect, and gives passage to the 12th cranial nerve. There is another foramen which is the posterior condylar canal, which gives passage to an emissary vein. Figure 9.7. The figure shows the foramen magnum, which is narrow anteriorly and wide posteriorly. through the narrow part, structures passing are the apical ligament, the upper band of the cruciate ligament, and the membrana tectoria. Through the wider part passes the junction of the medulla oblongata with the spinal cord and its 3 meninges. Through the subarachnoid space passes the vertebral artery, one on each side, and the vertebral artery gives branches. The anterior spinal joins to form a single anterior spinal artery, and the posterior spinal artery remains separate. And also entering the cranial cavity is the spinal root of the accessory nerve. Between the vertebral artery and spinal root of accessory nerve is the first tooth of the ligamentum denticulatum. The figure shows the structures lying in the internal acoustic meatus. The large one is the 8th nerve or the vestibulocochlear nerve, and the 2 roots of the 7th nerve. The sensory root is interposed between the motor root of the 7th and the 8th nerve. And we have the labyrinthine vessels. The labyrinthine artery is a branch of the basilar artery, supplies the internal ear, and it is characterized by important fact that it is an end artery. Foramina on the base of skull. In the anterior most part is the incisive fossa, which gives passage to greater palatine vessels and terminal part of nasopalatine nerve. On the posterolateral corner of the hard palate is the greater palatine foramen, which gives passage to greater palatine artery and anterior palatine nerve. Posterior to this are 2 to 3 lesser palatine foramen, giving passage to lesser palatine vessels and posterior palatine nerve. In the middle part of the base, there is an important big round foramen, which is the carotid canal, lying on the inferior surface of petrous temporal bone. This is where it enters and then comes on the middle cranial fossa on the posterior-superior part of the jugular of the foramen lacerum. This contains the internal carotid artery accompanied by its venous plexus and sympathetic plexus. There is a nerve to pterygoid canal which is lying in the anterior wall of the foramen lacerum and contains the nerve of pterygoid canal which opens into the pterygopalatine fossa. Also seen is a palatino-vaginal canal which is not often seen. Palatino-vaginal canal, and it gives passage to the pharyngeal branch of the pterygopalatine ganglia. Sometimes if canal is also seen which is known as the vomerovaginal canal. Then there is the jugular fossa, posterior part contains the beginning of internal jugular vein, and anterior to that there is the exit of 11th, 10th and 9th nerves. The anterior condylar canal is there which gives passage to the 12th nerve. Important foramen, very important foramen is the stylomastoid foramen, which gives exit to the 7th cranial nerve, and on a more posterior plane is the posterior condylar canal which gives passage to an emissary vein. The figure shows the stylomastoid foramen through which the facial nerve exits out and goes in relation to the parotid gland. The facial nerve is unique in the fact that it has 2 foramina in the skull. One is the internal acoustic meatus in the posterior cranial fossa, then it roams in ear, internal ear and middle ear, and leaves the ear through the stylomastoid foramen.